Children, we are studying the chapter 13, that is sound. In today's topic, we'll discuss what is the difference between a noise and a music. What is noise, bache? Any unpleasant, unwanted and unbearable, intolerable sound, a loud sound is referred as a noise. Any sound which we, do not please us, which gives us irritation thing and which is very loud, that sounds are referred as noise. These noises are produced by irregular and non-periodic vibrations. So the type of vibrations by this noise is produced is irregular and non-periodic. As well as the noise is produced by an irregular waveform like this. This irregular waveform will lead to the production of noise. Whereas the other one, which is referred as the music, the opposite of it, that is the pleasant and the soft sounds, are referred as musical sounds or music. These are produced by a regular and periodic waveform like this. This is a smooth waveform, bache, and here the irregular waveform is there. The dispersed waveform is there. Whereas in music, the regular waveforms are there and they are produced by a regular and periodic vibrations. So that is the difference. One more difference on the in the noise and music is on the basis of health hazard. The noises may cause damage to our health. They may cause serious ear illnesses, certain lack in the concentration of the students. Certain brain disorders may also cause if we continuously exposed to the loud sounds. Whereas the musical sounds or music, they do not pose any threat to our health. They do not pose any threat to the health related concerns. So that is the difference between the noise and the music. The unpleasant, the unwanted and the loud sounds are referred as noise or noises, whereas the pleasant and the soft sounds are referred as music. The noises are produced by irregular and non-periodic vibrations. Irregular waveforms are produced during them, whereas the musics are produced, or the musical sounds are produced by regular and the periodic vibrations. They have a very smooth waveform. They pose health threats, health hazards, they create health hazards for human beings or animals, whereas musical sounds do not produce or do not cause any kind of health hazard to the human beings. Now, this music is produced by certain instruments. How those instruments produce their respective sounds, we will study them one by one. So the next topic which we have to discuss is musical instruments. These are the devices or the instruments by which we can produce a musical sound. These musical instruments, on the basis of their production, are of 5 types. The first one are stringed instruments. String means a wired instrument which has wires in it. Stringed instruments like guitar, veena, violin, these instruments are referred as stringed instruments. Sitar, which you usually see in the goddess Saraswati's picture, that is sitar, which she is holding. So these are stringed instruments. They have strings, and those strings are tightened by the screws. To change the pitch of a guitar, of a violin, of a sitar, of a veena, what we do, we tighten the strings, and that tightening of strings will change the frequency, and henceforth the pitch of the sound, the musical sound is changed. In a stringed instrument, what happens, bache? Suppose this is the picture, rough picture of a guitar. You must have seen it in life guitar. In here various strings are there, and in this there is a hole which is an air chamber in it. This air chamber present in the guitar or in the violin to increase the loudness of the sound. That hollow chamber which is present in the guitar increases the loudness, increases the amplitude of the sound. When we struck these strings with the help of a bow, then the vibrations are produced, and those vibrations are heard to us as a musical sound. The second type of instrument is a wind instrument. As its name indicates, bache, the instrument in which the wind plays the major part of the production of vibrations that are referred as wind instruments. Whensoever we blow air in them, the air present in those chambers, those instruments will vibrate, and that vibrations of air will lead to the production of musical sound. Now, wind instruments example are shehnai, flute, saxophone, whistle, and bugle. These are certain examples of wind instruments in which wind plays the major part of the production of musical sound. The third kind of instrument is percussion instruments. Percussion instruments are the instruments in which there is a thin skin or thin membrane is there. Whensoever we hit on that thin membrane or thin skin, like tabla, drum, the drum which is beaten by a stick. So dholak, mridangam. Mridangam is also an instrument which is just like the dholak. These instruments have various vibrating skins, various thin skins, thin membranes on which whenever we beat them, they produce a sound. The change in the tightening of these skins also varies the frequency or pitch of the sound. The fourth kind of instruments are reed instruments. R-E-E-D, reed instruments. Reed means the metallic strings are there. The metallic thick rods are there. These instruments have metallic reeds, and whensoever air is blown in between those reeds, they will produce sound, musical sound. The example is harmonium, mouth organ. These are the reed instruments. Piano, that is also an example of reed instrument. The next and the last one are ghanvadya. It is completely a Sanskrit word. Ghanvadya. They are the instruments which are beaten over each other. They struck over each other, and they produce a sound. The examples of ghanvadya are, these kind of instruments are manjira, which are known as cymbals, ghatam, mud pot. You must have seen certain folk songs that they have a mud pot and they are beating it. By beating the mud pots, a kind of musical sound is produced. So these are instruments are known as ghanvadya, which are struck or beaten on itself and produce a ringing sound. So these are the various kind of musical instruments. Now we will discuss noise pollution. As its name indicates, any sound which pollute our environment is referred as noise pollution. So what is noise pollution? It is any kind of noise that create disturbance or discomfort in our environment. That is considered as, that phenomena is referred as noise pollution. So noise from any source, any substance, any object, any device that causes disturbance or discomfort, dis-ease, unease in the environment, and that is known as noise pollution. The sounds of over 90 decibels, if heard for a prolonged period, that will referred as a noise pollution. अगर बच्चे हम 90 डेसिबल का साउंड बहुत लंबे समय तक लगातार सुनेंगे या प्रोड्यूस होगा एक जगह से, that condition is referred as noise pollution. There are certain sources around us or which you will see in your daily life, which cause this kind of disturbances and discomfort, and those sources are referred as sources of noise pollution. For example, loudspeakers, like in the DJs, the DJ parties which we are attending nowadays, those contain a large noise producing speakers. So those loudspeakers produce a large sound, a loud sound, which cause noise pollution. Excessive use of horns during a traffic jam or during a movement of automobile on the road, that excessive use of horns will create noise pollution. What happens in Maharashtra now is, in the Mumbai, at the red lights, if you blow horn, the red light will increase its time period. So that is a way, they find a way to stop noise pollution. Moving aeroplane, moving train, they produce a large sound, they produce a very loud sound. That cause noise pollution. The crackers, you must have seen the ads during Diwali, do not burn the crackers, do not use the crackers for the celebrations of Diwali. Why? because by that crackers the animals which are present on the roads, which are roaming around here and there in open, will get scared. So for them, do not use crackers. Do not burn the crackers unnecessarily, as they produce a noise, and that will affect our environment, and that is known as noise pollution. Next, बच्चे, harmful effects of noise pollution. What are the effects of noise pollution to the human body, to the animals? The first is, it may cause disorders, diseases like headache, earache, loss of concentration may occur in the work or the studies. So these kind of problems may arise due to noise pollution. If we heard continuously for a prolonged period to a loud sound, that these kind of disorders like nervous tension, high blood pressure, irritation, that is a very common thing. That happens in your class as well. Sometimes if a large noise is created in the class, the teacher gets irritated by that. Why? Because loud sounds for a prolonged period will cause irritation, nervous tension, earache, कान में दर्द होने लगेगा, headache, and high blood pressure. Next, it may cause lack of concentration in the work or in the studies. It is also very common, bache. If you are trying to study, trying to concentrate on your studies, and if there is a loudspeaker, playing in your neighborhood, it would be easy for you to concentrate on your studies. It is not easy to learn the things at that particular time. Why? Because loud sounds will cause the lack, will cause the decrease in the concentration in work or in studies, in whatsoever work you are doing. The third is, loud music during night will disturb our sleep. Common thing. In loud music we cannot be able to sleep properly. And 8 hours sleep is necessary for our health, for the rejuvenation purpose. So, if loud music is playing during night, that disturbs our sleep, and that will affect the work of on the next day. The fourth one is prolonged, that means a long exposure. Prolonged exposure to high level noise will affect our eardrum or tympanic membrane. In Hindi it is known as कान का पर्दा. अगर बच्चे हमारे ईयर्स पर prolonged लंबे समय तक एक लाउड साउंड जा रहा है बच्चे, तो it will affect our eardrum, tympanic membrane or tympan, and that may leads to temporary or permanent loss of hearing. So that is the impact of noise pollution over our health or over our environment. Now we will discuss the ways to reduce noise pollution. What measures we must have to take, what measures one must have to take to reduce that noise pollution which may cause harm to human beings as well as to animals. To reduce the noise pollution, what we can do is, we can avoid playing the loud music systems, loud speakers at religious and cultural places. We can use soft horns or silencers in our vehicles. Whensoever we are going in our automobile, in a vehicle, we should not unnecessarily blow our horns. The airports and the noise producing industries must be shifted away from the residential area, from the residing area of the people or the human beings. The trees must be planted in those industries, as trees will help in the production of noise pollution. The leaves of tree absorbs the vibrations and slows down the loudness of sound, reduce the loudness of sound. Next thing, bache, machines of the industries must be maintained in a good condition to reduce the industrial noise pollution. As explained in you earlier, we should not, burn the crackers unnecessarily, or we must avoid the crackers that produce a loud sound. We can use crackers if you want to, but do not use the crackers which are not eco-friendly, which will cause air pollution, noise pollution. Do not burn those crackers at any kind of function or ceremony. So these points are to be studied one by one now. The first one is, automobiles or the vehicles should be fitted with the silencers and soft horns. The second one is the horns of the motor vehicle should not be blown unnecessarily. The horns which are fitted in the vehicles should not be blown unnecessarily. We do not honk horns everywhere. Next thing, bache, one should not play television, radios or stereo systems too loudly. We should not play the electronic gadgets too loudly. Their voice must be reasonable enough so that it does not cause any kind of noise pollution. Next thing, bache, airports and the noise making factories should be shifted away from the residential areas of the city. They must be, planted away from the residential area, the area where people are residing. Use of loudspeakers at the religious or the cultural places should be restricted. The common use of loudspeaker at the religious and the cultural functions in India is very common, and those must be restricted so that we can reduce the noise pollution and its harmful effects. We should not play loud music in a moving vehicle, as loud sound will cause the lack of concentration. So, if we play the loud music in a moving vehicle, that will disturb the concentration of the driver of that particular car as well as for the other cars, other vehicles. So we should not play the loud music in a moving vehicle, as it causes lack of concentration of the driver, and it may cause to accidents. The next one is machines of industries or wherever we are using them should be maintained in a good condition so that the industrial noise pollution can be reduced. The last point is avoid bursting firecrackers that produce too loud sounds that cause noise pollution. Avoid bursting those crackers. So these are the ways, these are the measures to reduce noise pollution. The last topic of this chapter is hearing impairment. What is hearing impairment? If due to any uncertain reason a person has inability or has a difficulty to hear the sounds, that condition is known as hearing impairment. And that person who suffers that kind of problem, the person who cannot be able to hear the sounds properly, that person, that he or she may be referred as hearing impaired. To remove that hearing impairment, our science develops certain various kind of devices which we can use to overcome that hearing impairment. Sometimes due to excessive hearing of noises, loud sounds, a person will be permanently lose its ability to hear, and that permanent ability of loss of hearing is known as deafness. That person is known as deaf. So these are the certain conditions which we include in the hearing impairment.